So, yeah, we're not gonna waste any of y'all time. I want to reintroduce a new friend to the show, Sir Luke Moon. Thank you for having us back, sir.
Of course, it's good to be back with you.
Absolutely. So, we shared a little bit of something a few seconds ago. How, for some reason, we're all amped up, and so I'm gonna ask you to get whatever it is that is top of mind, top of heart for you, off of mind and off of heart. The
All
floor is
right.
yours. Yeah.
Well, there's a new Gallup poll that just came
Okay.
out today that is just a hot mess, dude. It's like and it basically says once the boomers go, that's it. We're done. Like our kind of Zionist movement's over. Now,
Okay.
I'm not pessimistic guy. Or
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a pessimistic guy. And I'm not even pessimistic about this. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like the amount of I feel like it just kind of adds to the work
Yeah.
that I already am doing, right? Like, so I'm like, all right, how do I take this on then? How do I,
Mm.
it's like, the forces against us are strong and seemingly stronger. We're
Yeah.
outnumbered, we're outgunned. And, it's in the midst of that I'm like, I mean, I don't know, I was driving down the road today
Mhm.
this morning and I was like, Lord, like what are you doing, man?
Hmm.
Like I need some wisdom, some guidance on how to take this on. Cause I just think that I see the path forward,
Yeah.
but the coalition and the resources that I feel like I need to make that happen
Mm.
are massive. And there's like within our own camp,
Mm.
we're all over the place and kind of divided, and there's a lot of people against other people. And so I'm like, I've got this group over here that they're good as long
Yeah.
as I don't talk about this other group that's over here, as long as I don't talk about that one. And
Yeah.
and it's a hot mess all over the place. So my side or our side
Yeah.
is not unified. The other
Mhm.
side seems to be fairly unified against us.
Mm.
And I know the Lord's up to something because
Yeah.
repeatedly in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, it says, where God says through the prophets, I'm going to do X, whatever it
Yeah.
is, so that the nations of the world will know that I am their God.
Mm.
Okay. Like 70 times God
Yeah.
says that. So God is going to do something to show his glory. And I don't
Mm.
know what that is.
Yeah.
And I'm like in eager expectation of it. But at the same time, uh, like how? Like what and what's my piece in that? Is there a
Mm.
piece that I have in that? So, dude, that's Friday morning, Luke Moon.
Happy Friday. So, I wanna backtrack a little bit because you were in, I guess, one of the seeming lights in a very dark place, which was, I believe, was the Judeo-Christian conference, Congress, something like that?
Judeo-Christian Zionist Congress.
Okay,
Yes,
there we go.
yes.
And so I got to see a couple videos that came out of this, so I can only really take what I heard from
Mhm.
Inner Circle as well as the few that I saw. When you were there, were you getting a different sentiment than after seeing this poll?
Um, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Well, actually, I was also, I think, one of the few people there that was saying have an optimistic
Mm.
message. Like one of the
Mm.
things that we have to do, and one of the reasons the polls are so bad
Yeah.
is because the the message is negative. The other side is
Mm.
pushing a pessimistic negative, and our side is also actually contributing to that.
Hmm.
And tone matters. Like you gotta like we are not the minority. We're the
Yeah.
majority still, because the boomers aren't dead yet. I'm not
That's
dead
right.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And we got time to
Mm.
build something. And I'm like, okay, what do we got to build?
Mm.
And so my message out there was like that I talked about there was a poll at TPUSA's America Fest
Yeah.
where the participants, there was over 30,000 people there, the majority of whom were Gen Z. okay?
Mm,
And they were polled, is Israel our best ally? Is Israel an
mm,
ally like everybody else, or is Israel our worst ally?
mm.
Okay? I think 17% of the people who took the poll said Israel's our worst ally. 37% said Israel's our best ally. So we got
Okay,
them beat on
that's
that,
right. Yeah, in-house at least, yeah.
okay? And that was like ground zero for like the zeitgeist on the right,
Mm,
uh, like the let's call it like the Charlie Kirk right. I mean,
mhm,
it's pretty right. I mean, it's red meat, man. Lots of American flags, lots of lots of
mm,
and if that's like the right, the MAGA right, then it kind of I don't know what the left is a mess, but this
right.
that group in the middle is kind of up for grabs always.
Mhm,
But 17% was against us there.
yeah.
That's dude, I can deal with that.
Mm,
And so, there's a bunch of mess. I was on 3 panels last week,
mhm,
and at each one, I feel like I was like my message was, "We are we are the majority. Let's
yeah.
act like it. Let's talk like it. Let's
Mm,
not be pessimistic. Let's not give in to Tucker and Candace and Nick's message."
mm,
'Cause they're lying. The devil comes to, kill, steal, and destroy.
right.
He's the dividing. He roars around like a roaring lion. Like, that message of division is toxic, and
Mm,
when we push it, when we join in on that, like, dude, we know how the book ends.
mm. That's
We
good.
know God is faithful to the
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
Like, that is what the whole the whole reason for this is because God is involved in it.
that's right. You're on the
And so
winning
we're like,
side. You you
we're
you picked the winning side from the
exactly,
beginning.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, like,
So
I think about sorry, one more thing.
please.
There's when Joshua meets the angel and
Mhm.
says, "Whose side are you on?" And the angel says, "I'm on the I'm on neither, basically. I'm on the side of the Lord of hosts."
Yeah.
Right? Where like, we know where the God is on this stuff.
Mm,
And he's going to do what he's going to do.
that's
That I'm
right.
confident of.
So it's so interesting because I have been having a multitude of different internal dialogues, external dialogues, but you're getting to the core of something, which is what is the message and are we unified on that? And, I oftentimes get into, let's say, leftist ideology rather than just, like individual sickos and
Mhm,
individuals who are
mhm,
unhinged. What is the framework? What is leading to this sort of mentality? And so you can pick at multitudes of things, but the one thing you cannot ever take away from them is their ability to organize.
mhm.
The Marxist knows how to come together with allied forces
Yeah.
and to get whatever sick job done. And so it's interesting because you bring this element of cohesiveness, right? Togetherness. And then you also bring, but what is the message? It's like, okay, we're together now, but what is that unified front? And so I want to give you a soapbox today because you're here already. And so, what is, I guess, the framework that you laid out and that is constantly coming up to mind for you?
That so because we're the majority, my
Mhm,
position is we're the majority.
mm,
We need to show it.
hmm,
That like we like for every Groyper event,
yeah.
if there's 100 Groypers, I want 300 Zionists at that spot. And I'm gonna
Mm.
work hard. I I used to be a social justice warrior, so I was
Oh,
never
I
a
could
Marxist.
never see that one. Okay, well,
Yeah,
you
right,
on the way. Well
okay,
on the way. Yeah.
right. So I was never a Marxist, but I could organize people, and I organized people to do some
Mm.
crazy stuff, right? So I can get people mobilized, motivated. That I know how to do. I
Mm.
just need to find them, and that is
Mm.
my primary goal every
Okay.
day these days is
Yeah.
build the army
Yeah.
because there used to be an army. There was
Mm.
an army that that groups like Kufi had built and the
Mm.
other groups had built, but it was the generation has passed.
Yeah.
And and Hagee is older.
Yeah.
Um, I give him all the respect that he deserves, but he has not transitioned out of it's not moved on from him
Yeah.
really. It's stuck.
The mantle
And
hasn't gone on to the next generation.
right, right. And
Yeah.
there's a bunch of leaders that are in that spot. It's
Mm.
always a real hard thing to like generational transitions are always tough.
Mm.
But what I'm after, what I'm trying to build is the Zionist machine, the Zionist army.
Mm.
So that because I'll tell you, only 5% of Nazi Germany ever joined the Nazi party, and no more than 3% of the
Hmm.
South ever owned slaves. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
it doesn't take much to move a lot of people. Most people
Absolutely.
will just kind of go along, which
Yeah.
is how the polls turn out the way they are because people are they feel like what like they'll give an answer to what they expect they're supposed to say because they
Yeah.
really don't actually think about it that deeply.
So
And social media is mobilized against us in a
mm.
significant way. Not I don't to degree to whether it's intentional or not, I have no idea, but it's like, it's 35 to 1 on TikTok, it's 21 to
Mm.
1 on Instagram, negative like anti-Israel posts, pro-Israel posts. Those are numbers are hard to overcome. Like we just don't have the numbers, but you know what I can do? I can get people to show up.
Hmm.
That's the mobilizing, the organizing. There's going to be a a debate in Florida
Okay.
between not DeSantis, Donald's, who's it's a governor's race.
Yeah.
Donald's and this guy,
Fishback?
Fishback is his name. I call him Fish because I just I gotta it rolls off the
Not a gay
tongue a little
fish.
better.
Yeah.
Right, so the 2 of them, and I expect the Groypers to show up.
Of course.
Nick's crew.
Yeah.
The polling in support of him among them is pretty high. And all
Mhm.
right, so I'll just get more. I'll have more. I'll have
Mm.
more of my people out there. That's the goal, and that's the
Yeah.
goal everywhere. To start I'm going to sell a positive message that we are winning, and I'm going to
Mm.
sell that we're going to show up. We're going to show
Yeah.
up everywhere because we will turn this tide by showing force.
Hmm. You're hitting on a missing element, right? Because I was unfortunately sort of ushered into this digital world. Well, I can be thankful that I'm not with Gen Alpha. They're cooked. Like as far as devices go, they're gonna need therapy and some, right? But I was in this stage where high school it hits, and all of a sudden we go from having normal encounters to now
Mhm.
social media brained, right?
Right.
And so the physical, tangible element of it, getting together and creating community, right? And seeing face to face, like what happened with the most recent event. That's something that I'll be honest, like I haven't been doing enough of an effort to even say, like, make sure you're showing up in that way, right?
Right.
Show up voting and things of that nature. But it's like optics do matter because even when you
Do.
do have, when you do have a crowd filled with people and then that is captured on camera and that's what's on social media, that's representation.
It is. It is.
Hmm.
That is what I'm after all the time. And you
Hmm.
can make those numbers. I mean, there's you can make those numbers look big or small or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I would do in 24 I did several rallies. I organized the
Mm.
largest Christian majority march for Israel in the country
Wow.
after October 7th, and
Yeah.
I expected like 500 people to show up and like
Yeah.
5,000 turned up, which was amazing. Praise the Lord. And we
Amen.
marched around Columbia, like Jericho, like it was like in New York. And then everybody was so excited, like, let's do it again, Luke. Where should we go next? I was like, well, and everybody was
Mm.
like, let's go to LA. So we went off to LA and 2 weeks later, and we had about 2,000 show up there. And
Wow.
one of the things I always got people to do was march.
Hmm.
because you can when people are standing in front of a stage,
Yeah.
you have to have a lot of people for it to look crowded. Like, it's the optics of
Hmm.
a bunch of people standing in front of a stage are not great
Yeah.
unless it's a concert and you can show, like, a concert kind of size group of people. But as
Mm.
soon as you start marching, people stretch out, and then
Hmm.
it looks bigger. It looks bigger
Yeah.
than it is most of the time, always. Like, it always works, and so marching matters. Marching is one of the is a huge optics play because
Mm.
it looks like bigger than it is always, all the time,
I mean, yeah,
but
leftists use it on a daily basis, you know?
all the time.
Yeah.
And so I started recently a like a it's my, it's my consulting company, but I call it
Okay.
2 Hammers, okay? It's
Mm.
named after 2 of my heroes. One was Judas the Hammer Maccabeus and
Mhm.
Charles the Hammer Martel, okay?
Okay.
Judas Maccabeus Judas the Hammer Maccabeus. We get the Maccabees from that. Like the
Mm.
Maccabees. So it was um there was the Greeks took over and conquered Jerusalem, and they
Mhm.
were offering a pig on the altar, and that there were Jews that were participating in that practice. And this guy, Judas Maccabee, was like, enough. I'm done. I can't,
Mm.
like, we can, this is not right.
Mm.
And he stood up, rallied people, and defeated the
Mm.
Greeks. The Greeks were huge. They were like an empire. They were like like the largest at the time.
Yeah.
And they and he def, and they purged and they cleaned the temple. And we get the story of Hanukkah where they had the candle and they had only had enough oil for one
Mhm.
night, but it lit for 7
Mm.
until they could make more oil. Right? Like that was that's one of the stories. The other story is Charles the Hammer Martel. So
Mhm.
in 732, in the mountains between Spain and France, was the first time the Muslims were defeated in battle.
Hmm.
They had conquered all of basically up to Constantinople at the time.
Yeah.
So they'd conquered Jerusalem and everything else. They conquered all across North Africa. The whole of North Africa was conquered. They crossed the Straits of Gibraltar, took the entire Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal. And the first time they were stopped was in the Battle of Tours in
Hmm.
732. Almost 100 years of fighting, not quite, but almost 100 years of fighting before they were stopped. And it was
Wow.
and those guys to me are, you know, it's the optics are terrible. It
Yeah.
looks like we're going to lose. There's
Mm.
no reason why we should win, but God is on our side.
Amen.
That's the message. And that
Hmm.
is and I don't need I mean, I would be great to have 1,000,000 people,
Of
but I
course.
need a passionate
Yeah.
thousands,
That's right.
and I can bend the earth.
Hmm. Okay, so this is gonna be a call to action for some of them folks because I already know as for myself, you know, I never intended to get into a space, right? Like I'm always
Right.
asked this question, like, "Oh, so what led you to the space?" And I'm sure you have the same answer where it's like you you never intended to. It's like if I
No.
wanted to be a YouTuber, I would have rather been like Mr. Beast or something. You know what I mean?
I know,
Doing
right? Yeah.
challenges and making zillions of
Yes.
dollars, like, but instead you're called to something greater than yourself. And God is always nudging. And when you follow some of those nudges, you might end up in a place you never suspected. And
Yeah.
your heart is fully given over in that place. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, I never intended to be in a space with a specific mission in this way. I just knew as a man, there would be something I'm probably called to,
Yeah.
right? Most of us are thinking just specifically material.
Right.
But, fast forward and now I am where I am. And like you said, the appeal of that warrior spirit has a deeper resonance now. Are you willing to die for something?
Right.
Right? Because when you're talking about people really doing things, like the men you're talking about right now, the 2 hammers in essence, those are men who already made their decision.
Right.
There is no surrender, there's no retreat, there's no going. It's we're going to do this and likely die, or we're gonna be victorious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's to
Simple.
me, but I tell you what, I think that is that is what people want, though. Well, a
Yeah.
bunch of people don't want it, but there's a
Yes.
bunch of people that do. You know,
Mm,
like, there's so many examples of, where courage, I mean, it's in so many movies, right?
yeah.
Braveheart and all the way down, right? Where, like, courage matters.
Mm,
You have to lead out, and you have
yeah.
to be, um, bold and courageous.
Yeah.
I have this, I was a missionary for 12 years, and I
Mm,
did a lot of crazy stuff in there. But, I would get asked, like, "Luke, how do you, operate in very dark places?" Because I would go into, like, one of my big things was I called it stupid American, and
okay.
my goal was to get into the holy of holies of Hindu and Buddhist temples. And so I would just start walking through doors. Like,
Ah.
see, it was unlocked, I'd walk through it. I'd just keep walking, and I'd get in the craziest rooms. And then eventually I'd get this trail of monks, and they'd be yelling at me, but I'd just turn around
Yeah.
and smile at them and just like, "Oh, I don't understand you." I mean, I know you're telling me no, but I also just, like, gonna keep walking. And I would find myself in, like, this, like, holy of holies, like some big temple, like some crazy stuff going on, and I would,
Mm,
like, call for, heaven to come down, and they'd be confused, and then I'd get picked up by the elbows and actually thrown out, right? But, I was like, "Yeah, but what you don't see is that there's this, like, 50-foot angel behind me who's got this big ass sword, and he is
mm,
got my back,
yeah.
and even if I go down,
Yeah.
I'm going down swinging, man." Like,
Yeah.
I fought human trafficking in Europe.
Mm,
I led teams that were tracing the human trafficking routes through Europe. We would go into the dark web. We'd find the routes the girls who didn't take it on, and we'd go on those routes and expose it
wow.
and whatever. And I remember we were in Prague, and there was a strip club in Prague called the Gates of Hell. And I was like,
Of
"Oh,
course.
Lord, you
Fitting.
no." I was
Fitting.
like, "Okay, well, I guess we gotta storm the gates of hell." So like, the 10 of us literally, like, barged our way into the gates of hell, preached the gospel, got thrown out. It was
Wow.
fun. But, man, it's like, I tell you, like, you lead out with courage,
Mm,
and that's what I'm calling men and women
yeah.
of courage to stand up in this moment, because it looks bad, but it
Yeah.
looks bad because everybody else is, like, looking to, like, "Hey, what should I say
Mm,
about that? What should I say about the Jews? Oh, you
mm,
so oh, we don't like them anymore? Okay, okay, oh,
yeah.
yeah, we don't like them."
Yeah.
Like, that's what everybody's doing.
Where's the disconnect? Because, we have this, like you said, massive, seemingly massive Zionist move in the boomers. And then we have this in between phase. And then now we have the activist again, right? Because
Right,
there was seemingly a gap of this real activism. And then all of a sudden, leftism in America specifically had its full swing. Unfortunately, much of it is misguided and utterly demonic, right? It's literally people standing up for terrorists and the very
right.
perpetrators of, our democracies and things of that nature. So, where was the disconnect on the other side? Because the left, they went full blown, full swing. We are the activist class, we are the activist crowd, and they had a monopoly on it. What happened then to us to where there was that disconnect?
Like,
Was there
why
comfort?
don't we respond like that, or why
Yeah, yeah. What is
or
exactly? Well, even and its response, I guess, is relative, right? Because it's not like
Mhm.
we're gonna go out there and start, assassinating our political opponents,
Right.
but it's why do we have such a laissez-faire sort of mentality about it as
I
opposed to reactionary or responsive?
Well, I think there's a the conservative temperament is not necessarily towards demonstrations and
Mhm.
rallies. They're just not quite the same.
Yeah.
It never has been.
Mm,
And I don't really have a good reason why. I have never
mhm,
quite figured that out. I mean, I've done it as long as I can, as long as I was, yeah, as honestly, almost as long as I can remember. I mean,
mm,
even before I was a missionary, there was, when right after I became a Christian, I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, and Asheville had this, like, annual, like, Wicca festival, and I'd go
Wow.
down and preach the gospel because,
Wow.
like, you go to the heart of darkness.
Yeah.
That's what I say, right? You just gotta, like,
Mm.
go and see what happens and see,
Yeah.
break through. Because I like, that's the story, like, the stories I read of the heroes of the faith, like Fox's Book
Mm.
of Martyrs or something like that, or
Mhm.
any of the great missionaries. They just they didn't back down,
Mm.
and I'm like, "Okay, that's what I wanna be." That's what I like. I wanna be known for just not backing down. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna, like, it's if it's me and nobody else, I'll still do it because I just,
Mm.
like,
Amen.
I know I got, me and the 50-foot angel,
Yeah.
we're gonna roll, So I don't have a good I don't know, but I do know that when people taste it, when they do it,
Yeah.
then they like to do it. I mean, I
Mm.
there's a bunch of people that over the years now that I've kind of, that have tasted it,
Mhm.
tasted the fun
Yeah.
of, fighting in the trenches, and,
Mm.
now they reach out to me and go like, "What's the next one? Where are we going next?"
Wow.
There was right after October 7th when the Red Cross was not helping or doing anything to get to the hostages, right? And
Mhm.
they were kind of playing games with Hamas and whatever. And so they have an annual fundraiser, and it was at the Breakers in Florida, which is a very fancy resort hotel place. And so we organized a rally, a demonstration we couldn't get into the Breakers, but we could
Mm.
get close. And so we held, it was probably 25 of us out there with signs and stuff like that. And one of the things that I used to do, um, when I would do, like, leaving tracks and stuff like that, one of the great
Mhm.
places you can do to, have people, like, where 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 people kind of have time to read something is in a
Yeah.
bathroom stall. And
Yeah.
so I would put tracks in the bathroom, but typically
Yeah.
in the bathroom stall, like on the toilet paper holder or something like that, or
Should
tape it
put it
to
on
the
their phone screen.
like,
Yeah, you
tape
could.
it to the back of the door or something like that. So I told a couple of these guys, "Hey, why don't you get some flyers and when you get a chance, why don't you go, like, go in and put some messages into the, bathroom stalls." And they all got, like, picked up by the security, which was hilarious. But afterwards, they, like, still to this day reach out to me and, like, "So when's the next one?" I mean, they like it just kind
Wow.
of it once you taste the kind of the adrenaline rush, plus you feel like you're on the right side of history,
Mm.
people, like, really get into that. So, I do have a crew that I
Mm.
run with at this point, but it's, we just gotta I'm telling you, the more we show up
Mm.
physically, I think that's so many people are on their phones and
Yeah.
consuming this digital media, right? But that digital media requires content and a
Yeah.
more kind of authentic and organic content, meaning you're showing
Mm.
up, you're pushing back, you're pushing like that moves the needle as far as I'm concerned. And it
Mm.
undermines the power of the other side.
Hmm. It's interesting. I get this image in my head of like you're talking about the Groypers, right? They'll get out there for Fuentes, a Sneeko stream, or whatever kind of nonsense. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to the other side, it's almost crickets, right?
Right. Right.
Our side, in
Yeah.
essence. And
Yeah.
I'll throw myself right in there to say guilty as charged because it's not that we don't have, like you said, numbers, or even more specifically, young men who are looking for purpose.
Right.
Where else will you find young men who have been essentially cast out, castigated by the current
Yep.
structure, right? Young
Yeah.
white men in churches everywhere who feel like I have no purpose, I'm not
Right.
wanted, I'm not desired, the society's
Right.
done away with me, feminizing of
Right.
the entire society. Where do I belong? What should I do with myself?
Right.
Right? And here's Christ gives you your purpose built in, just like he did his 12,
Right.
and sends them off, and they're warriors. I mean, let's be real about it. I'm getting the reality of this sentiment because I feel like we've also gotten this different Jesus that's been delivered to us, right?
Yep.
This other
Right.
who is this again, we get the lamb, but we never get the lion in the lamb. We never get the true ruler, the rightful ruler of all things.
The one of the things that I used to use when I was recruiting people to be
Mm,
missionaries, because
yeah.
I would go to like college and high school groups, and I was always like talking to the men because I figured that
Mhm,
I already got the women. The women
yeah.
are they for whatever reason they were already there, but I was like,
Mm,
guys, I need you to come
yeah.
with me. We are going to do some really crazy stuff, and it's gonna be really fun and awesome and
Mm,
adventurous and for the kingdom
mm,
of God. So
yeah.
let's go do it. And I would find that that was a really actually a it would resonate well. I had a crew. I mean, they
Mm,
were it was a bunch of misfits. It
yeah.
always is. It's a
Yeah.
the island of misfits toys. Little fits a lot most of the time because it's just like people who kind of are on the edge
Mm,
of like society. And yeah, like if you looked in the like 2009, 2010, the guys who were running with me,
mm,
the biggest criticism that we got was we weren't the right kind of Christians.
hmm,
Like we were because we were just a little bit too much on the edge.
mm,
In not always all, there was a lot of kind of like wild living, but in the
mm.
right way with the occasional wrong way, right? So I would
Okay.
have to kind of get them, corral them again. Come on, like
Yeah.
guys, you don't have to do like I love you, but don't do that again. But come
Mm,
on, and it was because I mean that was they were the guys who needed a they needed someone who wanted to come along and like build them up
mm,
and fight with them and just kind of show them how to be awesome. And so, but I used to use this ad from Shackleton. So there's the Shackleton, Ernest Shackleton, I think is the guy's name, did an expedition to try and hit the South Pole.
okay.
And so he put an ad in the paper in the UK to get people to come on his expedition. And so here was his ad in the in and it says men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in the event of success. He had so many people sign up. He had like hundreds of people sign up for him. And
Wow.
they went down to our and their ship got stuck in the ice, and then they had to get off their ship because it was like the ice was too much and it was weighting down. It actually sank,
Mm,
and all the men ended up they all got saved. They like had like rowed across like like to uh Chile, Argentina, like somehow they did make it out, but
wow.
they never actually made their goal. They never made South Pole. But the whole story is insane. But
Hmm.
the thing I love is that he's like, "Come, you might
Yeah.
die, but
Yeah.
dude, you'll get recognition if we do. We
It'll
succeed,
be
you're gonna
worth
it's
it.
like
Yeah.
it'll be worth it." And he had so many people, and I feel like the offer out there isn't during when ISIS was like super huge and
Mm,
like doing this terrible stuff all over the place, it was attracting so many men from
yeah.
around the world because what was the message that ISIS was offering? Come and die for Allah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and then what is the message that the world offers? It's like when you're gonna have your next orgasm.
Yep.
And the Christians were like, you know, be really nice. Like, and I'm like,
Mm.
guys, that message is
Yeah.
terrible. Like,
Yeah.
especially I don't want to be nice. I want to be fierce.
Mm.
like, with love, okay? But, like,
I
in the
mean, well,
Jesus
there's
way.
a difference
But it's
between
like
because kindness, I mean, I don't remember, maybe it's in a Greek or Latin translation. I don't remember one reference to be nice. I remember kindness everywhere
oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
gentleness everywhere, but it's like,
right.
this sort of idea of you can only be kind or gentle if you have the capacity not to be, right?
Right,
Niceness
right,
is
right.
almost the docility, and it's like you're basically cowering to whatever system.
Yes,
So
yes.
niceness got us here.
Right, right. And there's this historian that says, history is the sound of wooden shoes walking upstairs and slippers walking downstairs.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
it's the strong men that take things. It's
Yeah.
just, even there's a verse in Matthew, the kingdom, and what? Violent men take hold of it?
Yeah.
I have to look that up,
It
but
says, yeah, and wealthy men or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. Uh-huh.
Right, like, so, like, there is a you gotta fight for it. You gotta fight for something, and then I think that's the attraction that ISIS offered. It's the attraction that Shackleton offered,
Mm,
and what I'm wanting out of I'm also I'm putting out the word on the same thing.
yeah.
Like, this is not the popular cause,
Yeah.
but um, it is a very righteous one and
Yeah.
one worthy of fighting for.
Mm. So let's get into specifics of what are people fighting and dying for, right? Because like you said, most people have given their lives for something that eternally had no significance,
Right.
right? If you think of most of the conquerors through our time, they're going to be a footnote in eternity because
Mhm.
what was it really all about?
Right.
Whereas we have, whether it is the disciples, apostles, etc., and those throughout the last 2000 plus years that have fought and many died for the sake of Christ. And so I guess, is there some sort of then disconnect messaging wise there to say when you are classified as a Christian Zionist, it is the purest version of what that scripture testifies,
Right.
right? Because they see crusaders and they think that's a Christian. They think of an Aryan Jesus in their head. And
Right.
so the symbolism does something, but it's like, is that the actual Christ? Are you really clinging on to the truth or an image that riles you up because it's a better synthetic than not having anything at all?
Well, I think part of that's one of I think, the attractions that you see in the manosphere of
Yeah.
all the warrior ethos,
Mhm.
you have, even Pete Hegseth, our defense
Yeah.
secretary, has what, Deus, uh, God with us, or something
Mhm.
like he's got all these tattoos that are very Christian,
Mhm.
right? Because it's like there is this desire to have
Yeah.
a fight,
Yeah.
and there is a direction. I mean, we have a fight before us. This kind
Mhm.
of the Marxists and Islamists have come together.
That's
They
right.
have joined forces,
Yeah.
and I would say that therefore to push what are they pushing against? They're pushing against the people of the Bible
Hmm.
that represent the Bible,
Yeah.
Jews and Christians. Now, is the target number one is Jews, as it always is, and then target number two is Christians.
Yeah.
And so to me, that is the battle of the age has aligned itself, arrayed itself in those two directions: the Marxist and Islamist on one
Mhm.
side, and the Judeo-Christian on the other.
Hmm.
And what I'm saying to people out there is, you pick a team,
Yeah.
but if you think that you are on the but I hope if you're a Christian that you don't join the Marxist Islamist side, And that's my frustration with what I think Tucker is doing, is I think he has joined that side and pretending
Absolutely.
to be on the side of the Judeo-Christian. Well, on the side of the Christian
Yeah.
specifically, forsakes the Judeo. But if you
Mhm.
don't have the Judeo, you don't understand the Christian.
Correct.
So to me, it's like that is how the forces are aligned. And
Mm.
there has been a group of Christians that has infiltrated our ranks and
Mhm.
is trying to divide us in half.
Yeah.
And so I'm pushing back, like I'm pushing back against those guys because I think
Mhm.
they're on the wrong side of this. And
Mhm.
at the same time, we have this Marxist Islamic front. And so it's a little frustrating in terms of, like, I'm trying to hold back the division while we have this big kind of existential fight before us.
So what's the division that you're seeing? Can you get into that?
Well, I mean, the
Specifics.
yeah, yeah. I on the on the on the Christian side, it is, you know, Zionism, particularly in the last couple weeks, there's
Mhm.
this woman, Carrie Pagine Bowler, who was on the Religious Freedom Coalition or
Mhm.
commission, and
Mhm.
they had a meeting, and she basically comes out and says, the Catholic Church is against Zionism,
Oh, yeah.
which she has been a Catholic for like 21 weeks, and so she's like not really the expert on what the
Yeah.
historic Catholic teaching is on all this sort of
Mhm.
stuff. But nonetheless, it got she got swept up into the zeitgeist, into the moment,
Mhm.
and got heavily backed with a bunch of bots, like
Mm.
massive, massive backing all of a sudden. And so she picked up, she's probably over 200,000 followers on X now, and that in the last 2 weeks, just massive. But she had met with CARE, which is the Council for American Islamic Relations,
Uh-huh.
or she spoke. She looked like when she was challenging the other commission members, she was reading stuff. And since then has just doubled down on this. And the thing is, the Catholic Church is not actually anti-Zionist.
Mm.
Like, that's not the official teaching of the church.
Yeah.
It is much more nuanced than that. Uh, they're both in the Catechism, and there's a document called Nostra Aetate, which they got rid of, the deicide charge, etc. And even this is the 60th anniversary of that document. And when the day it was like the anniversary, Pope Leo said on his, daily kind of talk, that anti-Semitism has no place in the church.
Hmm.
Very explicit. But you have this whole movement within the Catholics that are just pushing, pounding away at that because there's I think it's all this stuff I think is very spiritual and
Yeah.
motivate, in a spiritual realm that we don't see always.
Mhm.
So you have that division, that one wing of this is that you have the Catholics versus the Protestants
Yeah.
versus the Zionists kind of space. Okay.
Mm.
And then you have, just in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess, um, the call to prayer is now being broadcast out of mosques in Brooklyn. And the call to prayer says to the effect, there is, um, there is no God but Allah. He has no son. Muhammad is his prophet. It is a curse over a city every day,
5
5 times a day,
times a day. Yep.
5 times a day. It's a curse over the city. And that is what's happening. And, there's a bunch of videos now of, Mamdani, like leading
Praying
prayers,
with the police force.
exactly, praying with the police. And it's, it's there's a real fight to be had right there. And then you
Yeah.
have there was a guy he's Mamdani, who's the mayor of New York. He's a part of the Democratic Socialists of America.
Mhm.
And this week, one of the guys that's part of that has called for, that there will be, um, that it will be a violent revolution. And he was voted to remain part of DSA. So,
Wow.
like, that is they're clear on their
Yeah.
intent. Um, and we're seeing this. I mean, my feed is filled with Muslims both in the UK and the United States calling for we will win. We
Yeah.
will overtake you. We will
Every
institute Sharia.
house,
We
we
will.
will be in every single house, every
Yes.
single school.
Yep. Yep.
Your kids will all be Muslim.
Yep. Yep. That is, and we can't roll over on that and be like, "Oh, but I just want to be nice.
Yeah.
I just want to be nice." I'm like,
That's
"Well,
how
you don't have to
that's
be a
how we got to
jerk."
our kids getting castrated.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. You don't have to be like, honestly, like, I'm a firm believer in, like, there everybody's gonna kinda respond to this in their own way. There's the
Mhm.
guys that are going into Dearborn and wrapping themselves in bacon strips and,
Yeah.
burning Qurans and whatever. But there's also a bunch of people who are going door to door and preaching the gospel and standing on
Yeah.
street corners and doing that kind of stuff. So, the way that people go at this is their own way. But
Yeah.
we have to be aware, though, of where the lines are.
Mm.
Paul, one of the groups that I think has been totally under mobilized, if you will, is the whole prayer movement space.
Hmm.
And that is, like, the 24/7 guys, the people who are, do the big prayer network, whatever, because I think I've been trying to get them kind of pulled into this for a while because
Mm.
it's so deeply spiritual to me. And,
Yeah.
where Paul says, we do not wage war as the world does, but against principalities and powers in heavenly places.
Mm.
Like, that means that we need to be then weaponizing in that direction as well. So there's just,
Absolutely.
like, multiple fronts that I'm trying to kind of array the forces on.
Hmm.
One is, let's get people out there showing up physically so that we show that we're the majority.
Mm.
Also, at the same time, this I mean, there's millions and millions of people who pray, who are part of these vast prayer networks, millions of them. And they need to be arrayed against this as they're taking this to the heavens, and
Yeah.
they're breaking down these principalities and powers. That's how we defeat this. This kind
Yeah.
of, like, the people who want to show up and the people who are going to pray. I mean, it's not like they're two different groups because you can pray
Of
and show up
course.
at the same time, but there are
Hopefully you
people
are
who
praying and showing up at the same time.
exactly.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of people who really, that is their passion. That is, like,
Yeah.
they just love that prayer room and that time with the
That's right.
Lord, and they're pounding away at the things. And I like, though, like, keep going, brothers and
Yeah.
sisters, do that.
Mm.
And at the same time, like, we're showing up and doing this, like, we're holding the signs that we're gonna stand, police are gonna block us, and we're just gonna stand there,
Yeah.
we're gonna show, like, we are not going away. We
Yeah.
are not going away silently. We
Mm.
are the majority here,
Yeah.
and we need to show it, and we are going to win because that's what Jesus says.
Yeah. When it's all said and done, I mean, like, you had this imagery of, again, having God's angelic forces around you. If we really believe that we are on the side of the true living God, then what is there for us to fear? Like, that's
Exactly.
really what I'm getting the sentiment. Because a lot of this, I'm now thinking about it, okay, what would stop you from speaking out in a circle of people, your coworkers, whatever? It's fear. What's gonna
Yeah,
stop you from going outside, and standing up in opposition of whatever evils outside your door? Going
yeah,
to your teacher parent meetings and you know what I mean? And no, we're not gonna teach that. I don't
right.
believe in this and this and this. Going to council. The thing that gets us out is when we realize that God is victorious, period.
Mhm.
Now, you and I might get a couple scratches and bruises along the way, maybe, right? Charlie lost his life
He
for
did.
this fight.
He did.
So sometimes, guess what? It's going to be that. But in most cases, Look at you right now. You have been through things that most people couldn't comprehend, not
Right.
even fathom. I'm just thinking about, these dungeons you've got yourself into. That's a whole episode. But and yet here you are. God
Uh-huh.
has kept you continuously through the fight.
Yep.
And so I'm getting riled up right now. I'll be honest,
Okay.
because especially as a young man, it's like, okay, you know, I know when I was a coward, and that is what kept me from really speaking out, even coming out as a conservative, black conservative, and sort of, I call it the conservative closet,
Yeah.
and keep myself trapped back there because I felt I was going to make the people around me comfortable, more specifically, family members and this and
Right.
that, only to realize, look, that person was going to cut you off anyway.
Right.
So what
But
are you
it's
trying to
also
preserve here?
yeah, but it's also like, when I left the mission field,
Mm,
I went into a I ended up in DC. I felt like the Lord said, "Move to DC," by
mm,
faith. Literally, got in my car. My wife and daughter were gonna fly a couple weeks later, but I drove from Seattle to DC, and when I
wow.
left Seattle, I didn't have a place to live or a job. Literally, I was just
Hmm.
like, "The Lord said, go." And I was like, "Okay, I'm going." And I was driving a car, like, and it snowed the whole t like, literally, it snowed the entire route across the country. And on the
Wow.
way, I found a place to live,
Mm,
calling people, and eventually I found somebody who would let me stay in their house.
mm,
And then I tried to find a job, and, like, no one was hiring. I thought I did all the right things, but I ended up at a place called the Institute on Religion and Democracy as the business
mm.
manager. So I was doing kinda office work. And I was and I had gone from the mission field that who's it's, one of the cardinal virtue was, like, niceness, like, let's not be avoid conflict, let's
Yeah,
go preach the gospel, that's the primary thing.
yeah.
And so when I got to this organization and I'm, like, kind of going through the mail and I'm looking at, like, the kind of what's going on, and I come across this group that's advocating 40 days of prayer for abortion.
Wow.
And I was like, I had no context for that. I had no context for people who self-identified as Christians, as clergy, who were then advocating for something that I think is completely evil. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, wait, what?" And I lost like 500 Facebook friends
Mhm.
in like 3 weeks because
Yeah.
I was a fury. I would like the like you
Mm.
know, the fury of a thousand suns was coming off of my, fingertips as I typed these terrible things in the Facebook. And I look back and it was zeal without wisdom.
Okay.
Okay, was
Mm.
my way, like, what happened in that engagement. But at some point, it took me a while to figure out how do I spiritually deal with it. Like how do I respond better?
Mm.
And what is my because I've been taught Matthew 18. You go to your brother and you like and you confront them and but when it's a public platform, a forum
Yeah.
like social media is, there isn't a capacity to really go to, like, I can't go to Sneeko and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
dude, like, what you doing?" Like, it's gotta be the confrontation has to be on that platform, and that was really
Yeah.
hard for me, and so I was like, what am I doing? Who am I?" Like, so I was like I felt at that point, like it was my role was like the Old Testament prophet, not in the foretelling, telling the
Mm.
future part, but in the calling people back to the Bible.
Jeremiah. It was
Right, come
crying
back to
out.
the Word.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's what I started to do. And I would go to the events that all these like progressive Christians that were advocating the most insane things. I would go to
Mm.
their conferences and I would go sit at their, you would have like a hymn sing with beer or something like that. And I'd go sit with them and
Mm.
I learned how to talk in those environments, and I was
Mm.
like, you know, we both want there to be less poor people in this world.
Yeah.
What we're arguing about is how you get there. We want there to
Mm.
be less violence. I
Yeah.
want there to be peace between Israelis and Palestinians.
Absolutely.
What we're arguing about is the means by which we do that.
Hmm.
And when you come in like that, I found that the you penetrated a lot further. Like,
Hmm.
you got way further into the conversation by going with that kind of temperament.
Yeah.
Like where are we actually divided? Like, where's the actual line? And then
Mhm.
once you find that line, then you begin to have some really fascinating and interesting conversations. And that was all
Mm.
that became kind of my modus operandi. But I was, you know, there is a you have to kind of walk through that fury stage where you're just like, I'm like, "Arr," like
Yeah.
you know, a monster,
Like a
and then you're
wrecking
like,
ball?
"Okay, okay, now I'm with like a more sensible monster." So,
Yeah.
but to me, like, you gotta there is a in this call of people getting people to join this the fight, um, you gotta take the steps to have courage to go into the places where where it's not comfortable.
Mm.
Because that's where you win people.
That's true.
You gotta you like, it's
Yeah.
I have asked Tucker Carlson to have me on his show, like, 3 times, and he
Wow.
turns me down every time. Like, yeah, like, I text with Tucker, so it's like, it's
Mm.
not like I'm throwing it into the wind. It's like, no.
Mm.
And he tells me no, it's fine. But I think like, you gotta be on that, you gotta push you
Yeah.
gotta get in the room, and you
Yeah.
gotta push. Because it's not like I don't think I'm gonna win Tucker. I
Mm.
don't like at this point, I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
Tucker is does not want to be won.
But who's on that
But
other side, right? Listening and
it's all the people who are watching and all the
exactly.
people who are listening
Yeah.
who need to know that there's a good argument on our side.
Mhm.
And to me, that is a big part of this is it's not you don't have to win everybody, you don't have to be successful, you don't have to know everything. One of the things that Jesus did all the time when he would engage people was asking questions. He just asked a lot of questions. And
Mm.
that was how I operated when I went into these groups of progressive Christians. It's
Yeah.
like, just ask a lot of questions, and you find people very much open up, and you
Mm.
find out what's actually at the real root of this. I found
Yeah.
I would find that, in doing evangelism, I'd have, people come up and say, "Well, I don't believe in God because of evolution or something like that."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Okay. All right." Like, I just give them that as a pass. But then I would keep unpacking things before them and say,
Mm.
like, "So do you think there's like a universal standard for right and wrong?"
Mm.
And they'd say, "No, no, no." And I'd say, "Well, so was what Hitler did just culturally wrong? Or was it wrong it was universally wrong? Because if there's no universal standard, then you
Then
really
why is it
actually can't
evil?
say anything about Hitler. Like, Hitler can kill 6,000,000 Jews. Who are you?"
Yeah. Exactly.
They decided as a culture that they needed to kill all the Jews. And that like, you catch them. Like, it's,
Yeah.
that at that point, they're like, "Ugh."
Mm.
So then once you've unpacked that there's some universal standard, then you unpack, like, well, then who is that?
Mm.
Who gives that? Where does that come from? Where is that derived?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a and I feel like, um, one of the things that I've noticed as I've watched way too much Tucker over the last couple of days, is that there is a there is an education that has to take place in this space to kind of help people go, like, there's some very basic, even political philosophy, some big
Yeah.
theories that the church had settled on for 1,000 years
Yeah.
that seem to have been forgotten. Like, we're celebrating 250 years of America this year, and the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be
To be
self-evident,
self-evident. Yep.
that all men are created
Created
equal,
equal. Yeah.
endowed by their creator with
That's right.
inalienable rights. Okay.
Written
So
right
the
in there.
appeal that I mean, actually, earlier up in the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson appeals to nature's law and nature's God.
Mm.
Literally, that's what he opens in the first few lines.
I'm literally reading Common Sense, like Thomas Paine is sitting right there,
Right,
and I'm like,
right,
"You're hitting
right,
on something right now." Yeah.
right. And so the appeal to the founding of America was rooted in an understanding of rights are derived from God.
Mhm.
And then a big conversation, this like in this interview that Tucker Carlson had with Mike Huckabee, Ambassador Mike Huckabee, a big part of it was where do rights come from?
Hmm.
And how does how do do nations have a right to exist?
Yeah.
Okay. And the question is, do all nations have a right to exist and that kind of thing? It was like 10 or 15 minutes conversation between the two of them over that. But one of the things that was missing was like, guys, we this is like political philosophy 101.
Mm.
And you have to decide where are rights derived from.
Yeah.
And the founders of America decided that rights are derived from God.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we believe in the right to bear arms, which I do,
Mhm.
that is a right derived from God. If the right for Israel to live in the land that was promised to them as the everlasting covenant comes from God, then it also comes from God. So to
Yeah.
me, I have no problem with the right to bear arms and the
Yeah.
right of Israel to live in that land being in the same circle of understanding.
Mm.
But a lot of these guys that are advocating against Israel, if you pushed them,
Believe in
would be
2A.
totally affirm the right to bear
Yeah.
arms and that
Absolutely.
derives from God.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a disconnect there. There's an inconsistency, and I
Mm.
love inconsistency because
Mm.
inconsistency gives you a lot of then you can like pound away at inconsistency.
Mm.
It's always fun to pound
Yeah.
away at inconsistency. And so, I think that again, to our like who can make the better case? We can make the better case. We can make the
Yeah.
better case philosophically,
Yep.
biblically, morally, on like show up,
Politically.
politically.
Yeah.
It's all there.
And it's funny you say this because it's like if we look at Charlie, why was he effective? Because he was on the side of what was right, not just morally, but logically,
Right,
right?
right,
Historically. So if we looked at capitalism versus communism, the data's there.
right, right.
It's it's not just one proof of concept. It is universal and global that this thing has been tried out. Where does it work and where does it not?
Yeah,
And so, when we start getting down to it's interesting because I think it was Matt Walsh, and he had this breakdown of, okay, well, if does any does any nation deserve to exist or have the right to exist? And he takes it from a non-biblical stance, even though he is a firm Christian, right?
yeah,
Self-proclaimed Christian. So I'll take him at his word. His point was, all right, let's take that away from it and say then none of us have a right to exist, including America.
right.
If Israel doesn't, then who else does? What quantifies your right to exist as a nation outside of it's either declared, like you said, by the one who sets the standard? Okay, we get rid of the standard creator. Fantastic. Nobody deserves it. In the
Yeah,
same way you said there's moral relativism in this thing of, murder is wrong. Why? If
right.
it's our feelings about it, because people go off of feelings about Israel.
Yeah, if you wanna live in a world where there's only power,
Mm,
then that mind you, that's a very dark world.
yeah,
But but then it's literally all power, and then it becomes
exactly.
like what you can attain by the power you have. And if y and that I used to I mean, those are very, that is at the core of some of this, like, rights language and the human
Mm,
rights language and all this sort
yeah,
of stuff is if you take God out of the picture,
yeah,
you really, to me, um, I mean, I think all the ancients saw this, all the ancient political philosophers, Plato,
Mhm,
Aristotle, Cicero, etc., all saw this. And then Augustine and Aquinas and all the church
mhm.
fathers saw this. Like, you take God out of the picture and you have power, raw power.
Yeah,
And once you have raw power, then you actually can't say, you can't really critique any kind of brutality, really. Not
exactly.
really.
That's right.
I mean, you have to make some case that, like, we have evolved to the point where we
Mhm.
see that kind of thing is wrong, but but why can't we then evolve to the point where we see it's right again?
Exactly, and if it's Darwin, then it's still survival of the fittest. So whether
Exactly.
that's intellect or brute force, it's still winning, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So whoever's on the land, they won.
Exactly. No, I agree. I read that Matt Walsh in post on X, and he's
Mhm.
like, basically every nation has a right to exist. Every nation comes about by violence, and they
Yeah,
exist because they can hold it.
yeah,
Which mind you, I'm fine with that, but I do think, though, at the same time, there seems to be and under like well, for certainly with Israel, because Israel has been given a land. Like, it's the
correct.
only one that we know
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
Now, it doesn't mean that no other people has been given land. It just means that what we do know is that Israel did.
Correct.
And
That
then
one's
and
clear.
therefore, like, if God gave it to them, then there's a lot of potential that he gave it to other people. And I wrote an article last week that I talked about, like, because there's a lot of people that say that we got to get away from, like, a theological support for Israel, or theological understanding of this whole space. And I said, well, the thing is that every Christian believes in the providence of God.
Yeah.
The Westminster Confession, the Catholic catechisms, like, every Christian believes that God is at work in the affairs of man.
Mhm.
Therefore, theologically, you have to say that Israel's creation in 1948 was not an accident.
Yeah.
It was on purpose by God. So there is a theological point where you have to say God was involved. Now,
Yeah.
what we're going to argue about is, like, how does that play out in the future and current affairs? Fine.
Sure.
But every Christian has to admit that 1948 was not an accident.
Yeah. Well, I mean, almost every other Christian would probably admit that God's hand is in America, like
Yes.
United Kingdom, Poland,
Yes.
China.
Yes. Yes.
Terrible
Yes.
rulers as much as the greatest rulers, right?
Right, because God is the one who builds up rulers and tears them down.
That's right.
I mean, sometimes the rulers are for our purification,
Mhm.
our
Chastisement.
discipline,
Yeah.
chastisement. I mean, what, like,
Yeah.
the to me, there's actually there if you see how God deals with injustice, when back in the
Mhm.
day when I was a social justice warrior, I had a group of guys, we had some time, and we went through the whole Bible, identifying and labeling everything according to in like an injustice, or like justice
Mm.
issues is what we call it.
Yeah.
And in that, we defined injustice as an abuse of power.
Hmm.
So adultery is sin and it's wrong,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily an abuse of power. But rape always is.
Yeah.
Murder is. False
Mm.
imprisonment is. And so,
Yeah.
you get, in in the story of Joseph, he
Mhm.
was falsely imprisoned, he was
Yeah.
thrown into a pit, he was wrongfully accused. Like, there's
Mm.
layers of injustice that occurred to Joseph. How does God deal with injustice in the Hebrew Bible? Every time, and actually does it in the book of Revelation too,
Mhm.
through the destruction of nations.
Yeah.
And so I started, okay, well, if the God's the same yesterday and today and forever, I'm like, okay, Where has that happened to us as Americans, in America
Mm,
and other places? And I believe that Sherman's March of the South
mm,
is God's justice against the sin of slavery, because it
hmm.
was brutal, dude. It was like burning towns and villages, raping women and shit. Like it was just a decimation of the South. When Sherman marched across the South, it was brutal. And I'm like, oh, okay. That was
Yeah.
that I mean, I think now I could be wrong, and I'm sure the comments will play it out because Sherman's not well liked in the South, but like I think that God still does that. I
Well, I
think
mean,
God still uses nations to achieve His purposes one way or another.
I think Islam is being used. That might be a controversial take to some, right?
I 100% think it's being used
Yeah. And it will be smited
because
too, right? In the same way Nebuchadnezzar was still smited, so
exactly. No, it was like 100%. Like I love the Book of Habakkuk in this. Like
Mm,
Book of Habakkuk is kind of my go to like unfolding of God's like how he like Habakkuk's like, hey God, why aren't you doing something about all the injustice around me? And he lays it out as all the things. God says, okay, I'm going to send the Babylonians, which and Habakkuk's like, well, that's not what I meant. Like it's not like wait,
I mean, my personal gripe, you mean
like
people's court.
I was thinking something else. Like you could like smite them or something, like
Yeah.
squish your finger on them or open up their earth. Like, and God's like, well, don't worry, I'm going to take care of them too.
Mm,
And
yeah,
Habakkuk, so it was like 3 chapters. So everybody should read it. The third chapter is like, all right, Habakkuk's like, there's two passages in Habakkuk that I love. One is where Habakkuk says, not well, God says, no, let's say Habakkuk says to God, in your wrath, remember mercy, which I
yeah.
love. I love the turn of phrase there. It's just like, yeah, please, Lord. Like
Mhm.
in your wrath to us for the 65 million babies we've killed,
Yes,
please remember mercy.
yes.
Like this is like I could go on all the evil that we have committed. Lord, I like in your like your wrath is just,
Yeah,
but remember mercy. And then where Habakkuk goes, like though the fig does not is on the vine and no fruit on the vine, no nothing
mhm,
grows, yet I will trust you.
yeah,
Like in the midst of like even in the like when nothing is looks like it's going right, it's all downhill.
yeah.
I'm gonna trust that you have a plan and purpose for this. And I
Mm,
believe that for I mean that's my response. This morning as I was, I had come across this new poll and I was like, like even if
yeah,
it gets darker than it is now, I'm
yeah,
going to trust the Lord has a plan and purpose because I have read over and over where God says, I'm going to do this so that the nations
yeah,
will know that I'm their God. And then God shows up and the number of people who didn't see him that suddenly do. I was sitting with a
mm,
group of, the first 2 Iran attacks on Israel I mean, hundreds and hundreds of projectiles of some kind were being thrown at Israel.
yeah,
And in the first one, the first barrage, like over 500, like ballistic missiles and cruise missiles and drones and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not a single Jewish person was killed. There was a Palestinian girl, an Arab girl that was killed, but not a
wow,
Jew. And then the second one, another 500 launched at Israel in August last year. A guy walking down the street in Jericho. There's a video of it. It's of this like giant, basically ballistic missile falls on him. Sucked,
wow.
but no Jews were
No
killed. Actually,
weapon
more
formed
more
against
more
you.
Iranians were killed in that launch because one of the ballistic missiles exploded on the ground and killed 12 in Iran, but not a
Wow.
single Jewish person. And so I was I was asked to speak to a group of IDF soldiers who had come to the States to kinda learn about America and whatever, and I'm they bring me in to explain Christianity and like, America, like, what's up with Christians? And so I I raised this to them, and I was like, "You guys might think that it was because of, the Iron Dome and all these
Mhm.
missiles, like the US and the Jordanians and that, like, everybody's shooting them down or whatever. But the
Yeah,
fact that not a single Jewish person died in a barrage of 1,000 rockets,
yeah.
and that's just time and chance, and, like, I'm like, "I don't think so. It's a
I think that's
miracle."
I think that's "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." I think that's
Right.
promises made, promises kept.
I agreed. And
Yeah,
so to me, I'm like, "Okay, God, like, I
yeah,
see that. That's power."
yeah.
So
That's the God we serve.
I just think that, in the in days of darkness,
Mm.
when the light shines, that shines so much brighter. And
Yeah,
I think that's why we see this, like, the rage is so strong. There's
yeah,
this particularly after Charlie's death, the revival is real. There's so
yeah,
many people come to the Lord. They're getting turned on. They're just digging into faith, and they're
yeah,
and they're reading their Bible,
yeah.
and in the midst of that, the demons are screaming.
Mm.
They're fighting, like, they're tearing Erica apart, Candace's
Yeah,
video against her, the divisiveness that is coming
yeah,
from Tucker like, all this is intended to wreck that.
yeah.
Because
Because
and
his time is short.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's happening. And
yeah.
and, you know, I love there's what's fascinating to me is a bunch of the new worship songs are starting
Mhm.
to come out of the Book of Revelation.
Wow.
Did you know that, like, that "So Be It" by Elevation that dropped last week
Uh-huh.
or 2 weeks, I guess it's been a month now? It's like so much of it's drawn out of the Book of Revelation. Like,
I got chills right now. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There's a collective
there's a
understanding. The spirit is speaking
lamb
loud and
upon the
clear.
throne, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's and again, you were drawing the juxtaposition aspect of the dark is dark, right?
Yeah.
Because even when we think about the end, when Christ comes back, it is the full-blown repentance
Yes.
of Israel in their
Yes.
darkest hour ever.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And then and I was
Yep.
like, because this morning I'm in Jeremiah, funny enough, and that's why when you were, talking about the prophets and not the one looking in the future, the one going down the street to everybody like, you need to get it together. We need to
Yeah, exactly.
like screaming
Yeah.
from the rooftops from morning till
Right.
evening, right?
Right.
But I wrote down, and this is something I've, it's one of these existential ones you always ponder, but it was this question of evil. And for one of the first times, it internalized for me to say, the goodness of God to allow us to see and experience the fullness of evil
Mm.
so we can choose him for eternity, right?
Right.
Because some folks say, okay, well, from the beginning, could have just done away with it, etc. But how much sweeter
Mhm.
that you know what that is, right? There was the
Right.
age of innocence and there was ignorance, but there's no
Right.
longer ignorance. We've seen the darkest of the dark. What brought me to Christ was seeing darkness.
Right.
Luke, it was not the light. It was not even the message of what you'll get. It was me realizing, wait, evil it's real. It's not this
Yeah.
machination, right? Evil is a person.
Exactly. 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 And I think that, I mean, there are so many places in this you see this actually in America where I spent about 5 years in Asheville, North Carolina,
Mm,
and Asheville is where Billy Graham, like, lived
mm.
in the Asheville area. There was a bunch
Wow.
of ministries in the Asheville area, and at the same time, it was a very, very dark place. It's like, it's like it's the San Francisco of the East Coast kind of thing. Just like
Wow.
people living in just like the depravity at a maximalist level.
Mm.
And and you see that like in these places where there's such a strong concentration of the work of the Lord,
Yeah.
you see around it and in like this railing against it and that like
Mm.
and what's interesting is like I now live in New York and I'm not in the city but I'm north of the city and it's the hardest place I've ever lived to be a Christian
Yeah.
because everybody's working like, almost 7 days a week. They're
Mm.
exhausted. The kids' sports stuff is on Sunday, and it's like you're like punching against air. It's like, do you really have to
Hmm.
go to church today? Do you really need to do that? Do you
Yeah.
like it's the mood is not resistance. The mood is like you're just kind of in syrup, right? Like they just kind of like, and it's a warm
Hmm.
syrup too because everybody's got too much money. And so it's like this, it's a very you don't have that real strong push of evil. I mean,
Yeah.
it's around, but it's not a like in your
That
face that
overt jihadist
forces
in
you
your house.
right, that forces you to just rise up against it because
Yeah.
it's not a strong put. It's just like a flatness, right? So I think what we're seeing with a lot of these I mean there's evangelistic events happening on college campuses just about every day of this spring semester all over the country. There's a bunch of
Wow.
groups that are doing these big events and they're seeing like thousands come to faith and it's amazing. And in the midst of that, you see this like evil coming out
Yeah.
of the anti-Israel stuff, the the
Mhm.
the black pilled guys, like
Mm.
just this nastiness that is erupting, and you're like,
Mm.
man, where does that come from? Well, I'll tell you why it's there. It's because the enemy is raging that
Mm.
that God is raising up a generation that will fight him, that will fight for
Wow.
the Lord. And
Mm.
so, it is it's interesting to me, and I think is one of the things that makes me think this is all like I've said many times, so deeply spiritual is like,
Yeah.
what is the issue that is dividing the conservative movement and all these kids coming into faith and they're all and a lot of them they're coming into faith because they came into conservatism.
Yes.
Right? So, like, they started with going from right.
Yeah.
It was in that direction, right? Where it was
Yeah.
which is the opposite of what the previous 2 generations have done.
Mm.
And so it's they come in conservatism and then they come into faith. So what's happening is they come into conservatism and then what is the issue that's dividing? Israel.
Israel. Ding,
Israel.
ding.
Are you like,
Wow.
is this why is that? I wonder why that is.
Wow. It meets you at the door.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Hmm. Oh, that's good. Cause like for me, I was like, imagine some of these kids getting saved and the first person they run into is Candace. Cause they
Right.
haven't caught up on, just how insane a person is.
Yeah.
So Tucker is the person that
Right.
represents conservatism to him. What
Right.
better plan? And I mean, yeah, the devil masquerades as an angel of light, right? As a being of light.
Right.
So it's gonna seem like, well, this is part of God's thing, is it not?
Mhm.
There's they got a cross in the background. They've got, you know,
Exact
they got the right
exact
words. These
exactly.
kids that were completely biblically illiterate,
Mhm.
right? And rightfully so, because they just came to faith and all of a sudden, oh, that's good. Yeah.
And
Okay.
they're
And
they're
you
the problem is they're also taught or told how to believe or how to like, you can be taught, as I was actually, to
Mhm.
read the Bible in a way where Israel is not relevant anymore in God's
Yeah.
plan and purpose.
Yeah.
And I was taught that. I mean, if you had asked me
Mhm.
in 2009, Luke,
Yeah.
what do you think about Israel and Jews? I would have been like, nothing. Like, I
Yeah.
literally
Not
don't
much.
think anything about it
While
at
you're
all.
reading the
Like,
Bible daily, it's like, yeah,
right.
it's
Like,
wild.
it was like, I mean, I had read the Bible multiple times. I had actually in 99, I'm that old. I essentially wrote a commentary on the whole Bible. I read through it 5
Wow.
times. I was part of a program where you read through the Bible, you read through each book, you read it through it in a
Mhm.
sitting, and then you break it down by structure, then you break it
Mm.
down by chapter, and then you break it down by verse. And
Wow.
you write on like what you're saying and parts of speech and what Paul's like was the original reader and where like all the details around it. And I did that in 99. And a decade
Hmm.
later, if you had asked me, Luke, what do you think about Israel and Jews? I've been like, nothing. Like, why? Like,
Wow.
what are they? They're not. I'm, it's all moved to the church, man.
Hmm.
And it, and even, even like we had this conversation last time, even 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I was not where I am now.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I'm like, I see it everywhere. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
how did I miss this? It's so obvious to me now. But I get it. I get there. I get this, like, y you don't all necessarily have to go all the way to where Luke is, but it's
Mhm.
certainly it's not where Tucker and these other guys are either. It's not, it certainly not you're certainly not allowed to hate Jews.
Yeah.
Like, even if you think that supersession is replacement theology and all that sort of stuff is the right theology, and even if you think that the church replaces the Jews,
Yeah.
nowhere in the New Testament are you allowed to hate them.
That's right.
Nowhere.
That's right.
Actually, if that is your orientation, like it's repeatedly to the Jew first.
Yeah.
Do not boast of do not boast of the branches.
Mhm.
It's all there, man.
If he will toss them into the fire, what would he do for the one who's grafted in? Relax.
Exactly.
Relax,
Exactly.
Gentile nation.
Exactly.
Chill.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay, we need your last message. This is a generational shift that has taken place. So it's a generational
Yeah.
message, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get to talk some off camera on logistical stuff because things have been stemming as we've been talking. But what is your message to this upcoming generation specifically in this movement?
My message is be bold and courageous.
Hmm,
Like, I need you to join me on the line.
hmm,
It is a fight, but it is a good fight, and it is fun, and it's
hmm,
adventurous, and we really do have a good time. It is
hmm.
like I brought a bunch of people to Amfest to fight the Groypers. And
Yeah.
every day, every morning I would say, guys, we are happy. We are happy
Mm,
warriors. Put
yeah.
a smile on your on your face
Oh, that's
and a
good.
skip in your
Smile
step.
on your faith is fire, by the way. All consuming
And I
fire.
want you to and they're overly serious. They're negative. They're like
Mhm.
the furrow in their brow is deep. So come on, come join
Mm.
the fight because it's worth it. That's my call.
Wow, that's
And for
so
the
good.
guys who are my age, who are like on the sidelines, I'm like, I also need you.
Mm,
Bible tells us that the old men are supposed to train up the young, and the
yeah,
older ladies are supposed to teach up the younger ladies.
yeah,
That's what we're told in Titus, I think.
yeah,
So come on, I need you too. Like, let's do this
yeah,
together. We have a fight before us, and I need all hands on deck.
yeah,
He's like, but this Gen Z, I have so much faith in Gen Z because I believe that they're the generation that God is calling in this moment.
yeah,
There's a special call of God on that. I've watched, when I was a missionary, dude, it was, I did mission work all over the world. And there were places where you preached the gospel and it was like plowing gravel. It was so much work.
Mm.
And then there were places where I went and preached the gospel where I probably could have just, like, sung "Mary Had a Little Lamb," and
Yeah.
people would have
They
been
were
coming,
ready.
like, they were like, something like and that was in I saw that between Taiwan and China, between the Tibetans and the Han Chinese. Like, I could
Mhm.
it didn't take anything at all, and that's what I feel like we're in this moment with Gen Z is, like,
That's good.
they were so ripe and so ready, and it's happening, and I'm like, I love it so much, and I'm like, I believe that God has called this generation for this moment to step into this moment because the stats are the boomers are they're they are just dying away,
Yeah.
but who's going to lead this fight into the future? It's gonna be Gen Z,
Yeah.
and I believe it. I'm here for it, and I'm here for you, Gen Z.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm Gen X, rock on. All right, but I'm here for it, and let's go. We need to
Let's
go.
get
We
it.
need a fight, man.
We're hyped up. You're gonna have grandma ready to run through a wall right now too. But I appreciate you, Luke. It is a pleasure as per usual, and thank you everybody out there for tuning in. We will be around again until the very end. So, till the
Amen.
next time, peace.